Okay, the court has already been duly called and opened. The bailiff did open the court. I'd ask you to rise for the invocation. The invocation today will be given by guest of Dr. Teresa.
So good morning. I would like to introduce Father Daniel Clayton, who I first met when he was acting as assistant pastor at St. Bernard's of Clairvaux Catholic Church in Dallas. So we've known each other a long time. Really appreciate his friendship. Well, Father Dan Clayton is a Catholic clergyman with many, many years of service. In fact, I think it's over 45 years as a priest. He is currently in the Diocese of Dallas. He served in parishes as pastor in the city and suburbs of the Metroplex. For 10 years, he was the Catholic priest chaplain at Methodist Dallas Medical Center in Oak Cliff also. He's recently retired. That does not mean that he has slowed down at all. He continues to volunteer in hospice and with the DFW chaplain services at our airport. So thank you very much for your service, and if you will lead us in.
Thank you, Teresa, for the kind invitation to be here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Shall we pray? Sovereign God, to whom we offer our prayer and praise, shed the light of your grace upon this assembly as it convenes once more. Citizens all, we ask your blessing upon this body. The men, the women, we have entrusted with the mantle of leadership and responsibility, our county commissioners. Dallas is a proud county in a grand state. Elected and assigned to manage and care for the common good of all its citizens with integrity and fairness toward all, we lift you up. Having recently acknowledged the call and challenge President John F. Kennedy gave us to reach for new frontiers and to serve with self-sacrifice, we have as well the enduring legacy of President Nelson Mandela, whose long walk to freedom gave the people of South Africa, as well as all nations and races, a lesson in reconciliation and humanity with grace. In this holiday season, our churches, our temples, our mosques, all our traditions invite us to make justice flourish, to make hope survive, and to give peace a chance. For this city, for this county, for this time, for this place, your people say, Amen.
Amen.
For those of you who aren't here, welcome again to this version of the Dallas County Commissioners Court. The judge was here earlier, and you know, he has been requested to be away, and of course, he's there, so we give him traveling grace and arriving mercies. That being said, we'll go to the resolution. Commissioner Dr. Teresa.
This is a resolution recognizing the fact that 2013 has been a phenomenal anniversary year. Please remember that a regular meeting of the Commissioners Court of Dallas County held today. That whereas on April 6, 1913, Children's Medical Center began at what was then known as the Dallas Baby Camp, when May Foster Smith organized it. For over a century now, the hospital has been dedicated to make life better for sick children and kids with serious illnesses. Today, Children's Medical Center is the 5th largest pediatric healthcare provider in the country and the only academically affiliated pediatric hospital in the area. And whereas November the 2nd, 2013 marked the 100th anniversary of Pike Park, whose construction began in 1913 and was originally named Summit Park, became the cultural center for all Mexican Americans in Dallas, dating back to the 1920s. Located in the center of what was once Little Mexico Barrio, Pike Park hosted all of the major Mexican American cultural and historical celebrations in Dallas from the 1920s through 2010. Pike Park is one of only 3 historical landmarks for the Mexican American community in Dallas. And whereas, on June 10, 1963, the Equal Pay Act of 1963 was enacted. The act prohibited sex-based wage discrimination between men and women at the same establishment who perform jobs that require substantial equal skill, effort, and responsibility under similar working conditions. And whereas on August 28, 1963, marks 50 years in history after the largest political rally for human rights in United States history, where more than 200,000 Americans of all races joined the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Here, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered the iconic "I Had a Dream" speech. And whereas on October 31st, 1963, President John F. Kennedy signed the Community Mental Health Act, the law signaled a shift in thinking about how we care for the mentally ill. Instead of confining them into institutions, the act proposed to create community mental health centers to provide support. Obviously, a momentous anniversary year. Now, therefore, be it resolved on behalf of the Dallas County Community Court, I move that this resolution be accepted.
Second.
Got a motion and a second regarding the resolution. Any other readiness? All those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign of voting.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign.
If I may take just a moment, I would also like to note that the staff person who helped write this resolution, this is the very first time in about 6 months of having been an employee of the county that she has been able to attend one of these meetings, because she is also a full-time student at the University of Texas at Arlington. But I'd like to recognize Elvira Gonzalez, one of my staff members. So thank you very much, Elvira, for your willingness to come work for the county and to join us this morning.
And the chair can comment on that particular resolution. Next, with regards to the agenda, is H, the consent agenda, which goes 1 through 6.
Second.
Got a motion, and Trail second, Dr. Garcia. That the consent agenda be approved. You have readiness? All those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign of vote.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Shows it in front.
Can I ask a couple questions here at this point? One of there's a series of items that we just voted on of the juvenile department has moved forward a number of programs. But I just wanted to, as much as I appreciate what juvenile does, I had just a question about a variety of them in the respect that they're attempting to provide different kinds of...
Excuse me, which program?
Well, there's 6 different...
Dr. Dan, those would be J and Court.
Right, yeah, those are the J.
I'm sorry, never mind.
We're on the consent. Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's it, no problem.
We'll wait.
No problem.
We'll
Okay.
wait.
Okay. Under I, the award of bids as an annual contract for janitorial services, the East Northwest section of Dallas County and Bradford Government Center, the only one.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Dr. Garcia, second by Dr. Daniels. The award of bid. All those in favor, let it be known by your sign of voting.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Chairs in the affirmative. Under J, there are court orders J, 1, got a motion and a second.
Now, thank you. The observation was made that there are a number of items under the juvenile department. And of those, there are 5 various programs that we are either approving for the first time or renewing. They deal with programs addressing drug addiction with kids, for mentoring them, for motivating them to stay on a productive path. But I just had a question in looking at all of those of I would assume that you are doing evaluations of them, because I sometimes wonder, we do a lot of really good things here, but are they, first of all, doing the programs, doing what they say they're doing, and second of all, are they accomplishing the goals that they have set out to do?
Well, and before she answered, let me just say, let the record be real clear, on 13 to 22nd, all of these have been before the Dallas County Juvenile Board, and they are also approved by that board. And a lot of the questions that you're asking now, they were asked at the Juvenile Board for everything from metrics on that. There is a department that approves all of the programs that are here, so they are reviewed by the board and then brought to this commissioner's court.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, Commissioner Daniel, the programs that we have, a lot of these are new. So like the Second Chance, Rainbow Days, Style of Music, those programs are new. And as you're aware, astutely aware, that it generally takes a year for us to be able to collect data. Some of our other long-term existing programs, we contract with SMU, we contract with the University of Texas, North Dallas. So we do contract on those programs where we're trying to interpret the fidelity, one, of the program, and two, what works, because we don't want to have something in place that doesn't work. So for some of these programs, they have a logic model that we have to go by and see if they meet those measurements. So that's all a part of any program that we bring in. And then we look at the numbers. You know, if the numbers aren't there, if the program doesn't meet what they say they're going to do, then we reevaluate that program so we may not have it back for a second year. So a lot of these programs, if they're saying that they're going to have a diverse staff and they don't, so we'll have to look at that. If they're just the numbers that they're saying they're going to serve, then we'll have to look at that. So these are mainly new programs, and so we will constantly monitor them to make sure that they are valid instruments that we're using as well as valid programs for us.
But Dr. Smith, I think it's imperative that both she and the court understand. I see Dr. Carter is here with you this morning. Is the reason we engage some of these programs in terms of balancing the need and the assessment that has been done within the system.
And that Commissioner makes a good point. A lot of things we didn't have for our kids. And so we wanted to bring in programs to try and meet the needs, because one program doesn't fit all kids. Our kids have a gamut of issues, from mental health to substance abuse to low socioeconomic status, truancy. So they have a gamut. So what we try to do is in essence, find what works for our kids. And that means bringing in, we have probably over 3,000 kids in our system. We had 6,300 referrals last year. So it's a matter of trying to accommodate programs that are going to fit what our kids need. So what our goal always is putting youth first. That's our motto. But we have to make sure that we tackle the challenges that our kids have. So rather than look at what we think is best for the kids, we actually look at data, we look at research. We have a great research team that tells us what our population is, where they're coming from, and addressing them in that respect.
I'd be interested in seeing some of those evaluations when they are, when they do become available, just because I'm very interested, first of all, in seeing what juvenile is doing and what is working for kids.
I'll be glad to
So
show that.
important. Thank you.
And I just want to commend, obviously, to Dr. Smith and the Juvenile Board. As you know, one of Blanca Torres with my staff has worked, with you all, and she really says and keeps me posted on all the developments and all you're doing. And I have to say, I've been very surprised, pleasantly surprised to see that, like you just said, we have taken out some programs and put other programs. I was pleasantly surprised to see the art part, the more 360 degrees kind of program, the cooking classes, and some of the recreational as well as culture programs that you have in the juvenile department. I totally want to commend you and continue to do a great job. You have a fantastic board, and Commissioner's Price leadership, it's really coming to fruition. So I'm glad to see that. I to mention, Commissioner, Mr. Chair, and my colleagues, yesterday on item number 6, I want to obviously thank TXU for $186,000 for community utility assistance. I was yesterday at the Dallas Multipurpose Center, and they had over 250 people show up, Commissioner, for this assistance. And it's great to see that, and obviously I hope that the community, is aware that this assistance is out there. And there is another recreation centers that are doing it. And of course, I want to mention the staff of the multipurpose center, Kathy, Ms. Ulloa, and I don't want to leave anyone else, Franklin. Everybody was so busy, Commissioner. I mean, I felt like I was really intruding into the activity. But nevertheless, I was very pleased with the representative of TXU who was there as well, Patrick, and of course I delivered the message that obviously 186,000 probably is not enough. That we will gladly receive more funds for utility assistance. So with that being said, thank you to the partnership with the Human Services Department as well as the City of Dallas for having these, and the donation is accepted, and we would love to have more donations from TXU.
Well, I think the court knows if you want to do peer on a Saturday out of Health and Human Services, the system need outweighs anything that we can do. But those individuals, Mr. Thompson, your staff works.
Yeah, I do want to, since we're on video, TXU has, we're one of their largest donors in terms of receiving TXU Energy Fund, and they on the slide, the number I'm looking at is around 10 million overall in the past at least 10, 15 years. Right, they have been consistent and one of the best partners in terms of energy aid services in Dallas County. So while we see 186,000, that is an ongoing contribution that they historically give us, and it's really beneficial to the Dallas County.
And we appreciate it, and we will take a little bit more.
J332 is before the court. Motion by Garcia, Commissioner Cantrell. All those in favor, let me know how you sign voting.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Shares in your voting. Under K, time-sensitive court orders 1 through 4. Madam President.
Second.
Motion by Cantrell, second by Dr. Garcia. K 1 through 4. Any unreadiness? All those in favor, let it be known by who signed and voted.
Aye.
Those who oppose, same sign. Shares of the affirmative. And with that being said, before I get Mr. Martin, I'd like to recognize Rick Lesberg. We got another person that we are adding to our county staff today.
Thank you, Commissioner. I was lucky enough to be here a couple months ago with my son, and I'm more lucky today to be able to greet my mom. My mom has been to my office several times through the years, but she'd never actually been to court before. And we were having dinner a few weeks ago, and she said, I've never come on Tuesday morning. I hear about it, I read about it, I see on the news, I hear you talk about it, but I've never come to see it in person. I said, well, if you're willing to put up with it, I'm willing to bring it down. So this is my mom, Barbara, and I've often said, and Tony Smith made the same comment today, this is a family, this is my larger family.
You get a chance to see that you really do work with.
I didn't say that.
That being said, Mr. Martin will lead the session.
Morning, Commissioners, Mr. Chair. Item 1 of the budget, approved extension of the existing contract for 1 year from January 1, 2014 to December 31st, 2014 between Dallas Hospital District and Dental Health Programs Incorporated. Under Governmental Affairs, number 2, file attached transcript certifying the completion of continuing education requirements for Commissioner Dr. Teresa Daniel. Under Health and Human Services, number 3, approve the fiscal year 2012-2013 Ryan White Part A formula carryover funds in the amount of $28,000 as outlined in your briefing. Item 4, approve the award.
Mr. Martin,
Yes, sir.
at this particular time, before I give the chair, I'm going to ask Mr. Thompson, you'll come forward and just kind of give us a kind of a synopsis. The numbers, as we all know, going up on this flu, we're just now getting into the flu season. And of course, we've been experiencing it over in the jail in terms of how we're isolating. So, like Judge talked earlier, was he talking about West Nile or most of this community is how do we, manage public health. So, Mr. Thompson.
Judge and Commissioner Chair, Commissioner Price, we basically are in a point where we're encouraging Dallas County residents to take the flu shots. It's not too late. One of the things we're looking at, traditionally we see our peak in flu cases in January and February. But right now, we're seeing an uptick in our cases, which is traditional and what we're seeing. I think the concern is that residents are not taking the flu shots. And what we recognize is that Dallas County has basically been offering free flu shots for the past 2 months. So we're encouraging Dallas County residents as we come off the Thanksgiving holidays, and they've been traveling, and now we embark on our holiday season for Christmas. People are traveling, and so we're going to encourage everyone now to get the flu shot. It's not too late. Also, what we find is a lot of employees, of course, I know in Dallas County they don't take off, but the concept is if you're sick, you need to consider taking off if you're having a high fever or you're having flu-like symptoms because that virus can be transmitted in the workplace. But above all, practice cough etiquette. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself in terms of not transferring that to someone else. And the best way to do that is to wash your hands. It's amazing that with soap, with real soap. It's amazing that when we had the H1N1 outbreak in 2009, that we saw that there was an increase in hand washing through that experience. And so what we hope is that's consistent, that people they didn't stop in 2009, that they continue to practice good hand washing. But I heard somebody say 10 seconds. We try to sing the happy birthday song and continue singing it more than 10 seconds with hot water. And so when you're washing your hands, that's very important. But above all, we're seeing a 15% jump in our flu cases from several weeks ago. That's the concern. And as we move forward, the other concern is going to be there's not been any pediatric deaths in Dallas County to date this season. But in January, and I want to be very clear, I can't speak for the pharmacies in terms of their stockpile of flu vaccine or medical providers, but what I do know is very difficult to order flu vaccine in January because manufacturers have already produced a certain number of vaccines that they're going to produce for the year, and they've already distributed. The only thing we can do in January or late January is try to ask around and see if there's any flu vaccine available. But I don't want that pushback about can you get vaccine. It's very difficult to get flu vaccine in January. That's why you do pre-ordering in the summer to make sure you have enough flu vaccine in. But if someone dies, and we got major reports going on in the news media, then people are going to try to come in, and I'm going to say we only have less than 3,000 doses of flu vaccine, so it's going to be very difficult to reorder. But again, we've been offering it for free, and you can't be free. The last piece in that is people die from flu, but we've never seen anyone die from the flu vaccine, and so we're encouraging individuals to get the flu vaccine.
This past weekend in Quantico, there were a number of people who came in looking for the flu vaccine. So
that was one of our areas that we saw a lot of people coming in. We did over 200 flu shots at the Kwanzaa Fest. Of course, that people were coming in, senior citizens, young adults. Everyone was looking for the flu vaccine, so we were glad to have it. And in terms of pediatric, we had a group come from the DeSoto ISD on yesterday. They brought in, I see Mayor Sherman here from DeSoto, but the ISD brought in 30 students yesterday to get the flu vaccine for their kids. So we see our kids taking it serious, but we need to see our adults coming in and getting the flu vaccine. And the H1N1 vaccine, the H1N1 virus that is circulating, that's a part of the flu vaccine. So that's why we're encouraging everyone to come in.
Thank you very much.
And if it's, there's an article today called, it's in Delaware News in the art section about how to do Mr. Thompson did a fantastic job on how to wash your hands. But it also mentioned that if you use some of the hand sanitizer, has to have over 60% alcohol.
That's right.
For it to be effective. And of course, saying that your hands are not that dirty. But if they are, go ahead and move back to the soap and water. And if you sing the happy birthday song, don't sing it too slow, just, I need to say that. Okay. Thank you.
Item 5, approve the award fiscal year 2014 to Department of State Health Services, Agency Services, contract for the Dallas HSDA, determined that some HSDA is presented during the briefing. Under information technology, I'm going to take some time and go through this one, this briefing. But the Office of Information Technology and Purchasing recommend Commissioners Court approve the following actions to prepare for implementation of the cash management investment modules for the County Treasurer's Office. 1 is approve the purchase of the necessary Oracle license for the recommended modules. 2, approval of an amendment to the professional services agreement with AST at a not to exceed cost of $560,000 for implementation services. 3, approve engagement with a consultant to assist the County Treasurer's Office with the necessary business process improvements associated with the implementation. And 4, complete contracts for the implementation consultant and banking consultant will be presented to the Commissioner's Court for final execution in January 2014. I'm not sure if Mr. Wells had anything he wanted to add to this brief.
To respond to any questions, this is something that we were looking at the second year I was in office. We had to get the Oracle technical upgrades in and the funding available. It's something that is very much needed in terms of replacing the legacy system that needs to be replaced.
The planning and development number 9, I want to come back to that one at the end of your briefing. The public works number 10 recommends approval of the attached project specific agreement with the city of Copper Hill.
John, did you see the line?
Oh, sorry. I did jump. Juvenile number 7 recommends approval of the appointments made by the Juvenile Board for Dr. Juan Perez to fill a vacancy by Ms. Jefferson for the 2014-2016 terms. The Juvenile Department also requests the reappointment Ms. Catherine Holler, RN, Ms. Sylvia Roscoe Joseph from the National Director of WHO, We Help Ourselves, and Ms. Vivian Lawrence Child, the Family Guidance Center, to the Youth Services Advisory Board for the 2014-2016 terms. And number 8, Lee Tot Closet Clothing Drive requests approval of the clothing generated by the drive for the Lee Tot Closet, which includes items collected by theater, marketing, and sellers to benefit the youth of the Dallas County Juvenile Department.
And this is an exciting event that nobody, I didn't know about it, Commissioner, until I read it. And Dr. Smith, you want to elaborate about it? I mean, Sarah Sellers, the daughter of Sandy Hibbert, American Idol, we're talking about?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. We have meetings, we do tours all the time, and they always ask us the question, what do you need? And so one day we were taking a tour. A lot of our girls who come in through Utah and our boys are victims of trafficking and prostitution. So they don't have appropriate clothes wherever it be. So one of the things, the idea we came up with was have a Lee Tot closet, not only for the boys and the girls who are victims of trafficking and prostitution. Let's do that. So that was mainly shepherded by Sandy Hibbert and Stephanie McAndrew. So her daughter, Sarah Sellers, who was a season 10 contestant on American Idol, she sings all throughout Dallas. At her events, they have a sign that says, please bring gently more clothes. And so they're going to make a donation. She's singing throughout Dallas, so she'll continue to collect clothes, but they're going to make their first donation to Lee Tot tomorrow. So we're excited to get these clothes for our kids, and it's going to be eventually, we hope it continues to grow. It's going to be for all of our kids. A lot of our kids don't have appropriate clothing to go to school. They need items, so we want our families and our kids to be able to come and pick out clothes. So we accept donations for the kids. So we're real thrilled about this, and we can't wait to see our donations tomorrow.
And we have 2 events that are still up in the air, the 26th and the 29th of December.
Yes.
Can we get the location so we can post it in our website?
Absolutely.
I think it's exciting and it's for the cause. It should be out there.
Thank you, and I'll get those to you.
Thank you. And I'm sure Mr. Dayton can help us to put it in the county website. Okay. Christmas spirit. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Item 10, Public Works, recommend approval of the attached funds.
No, and as the you see will come back to 9?
Yes, we'll come back to 9.
Okay.
Item 11, purchasing, authorized
Will you pass number 10, the $5 million from Copper Hill?
I did read that. You want to comment on that one?
Yes, I just want to say briefly, congratulations to Public Works. This has been a fantastic partnership with the City of Copper Hill. I want to also commend the Copper Hill City Council, since they've been so accommodating to all our schedule. It's obviously a project that we want to do as soon as possible, and I think everybody has been working together. Obviously, the county is going to be the lead in this project. Thank you to our partners, RTC and COG, and of course, kudos to the Copper Hill City Council and to Public Works. Ms. Alberta, did you want to say anything?
Well, this just keeps us on track, and in February we'll have our next public meeting, so this is really keeping the project moving ahead and getting us ready for construction in 2015.
Can't wait for that. And during the night out, Public Works was there. They had approximately 300 people that they talked, with in the community, and everybody, commissioners, were so excited to see this coming to Public Works. So, thank you again. Thank you, Mr. Martin. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Purchasing item 11, authorize the second 12-month extension of bid for the annual contract for lamps and ballasts to award the competitive edge, Mustang Lighting, and Boss Lighting. Item 12, authorize the following 12-month extension of bid for the annual contract for the printing and production of election ballots and the conversion of audio ballot voice box with election systems and software, Inc. Item 13, authorize the first 12-month extension of RFP for desktop technical support services for Dallas County as awarded to QNet, Inc., doing business as QNet Information Services. Item 14, authorize the second 12-month extension of bid for the annual contract for the purchase of vaccines with Henry Schein, CT International, and Regimen Medical. Number 15, authorize the first 12-month extension of request for proposals for residential mechanical and weatherization services with Alana's Complete Service and Integrity Texas Construction. Item 16, approve the attached request for proposals for temporary staffing services, authorize the Personnel Department to advertise solicitation in accordance with local government code. Item 17, approve the award of request for proposal for ground mosquito spraying for DCHHS to Vector Disease Control International, authorize the initiation of contract negotiations. Under item M, under miscellaneous briefing, the mileage is actually going down on 1114 from 56.5 cents to 55.5, and I need to bring up the Georgia Allen Cafeteria requesting to close on 12/23, 12/26, and 12/27. All end users were contacted and agreed with the recommendation. Nick's Cafeteria is supposed to sign immediately to alert all the patrons, and there's no impact on the monthly rent due to this closure. Also, going to allow other locations to close if requested. At this time, I would like to go back to number 9 and ask Mr. Losberg to give you a briefing on your trail system. I've had the opportunity at Mr. Losberg's prompting to ride almost all the trails in Dallas County, and we do have a wonderful trail system in Dallas County. The last trail he had me on was the dirt trail over the Trinity River, and after I came back all muddy, myself, Ms. Brown, and Mr. Brown, I'd asked Mr. Losberg if he would take some time and just sort of give you an update on our trail systems in Dallas County. So with that, Mr. Losberg. Thank you, General.
It's been 20 years since the county first provided funding for a trail project, and that first project was the Katy Trail. Up at the top of this page, you see a shot looking north at Knox, where the railroad track crosses. There, up until 1965, there was a train station there where you could take the Katy Trail, take the Katy Railroad, and commute south or go north, depending on the situation. That was the stop. Looking below is the present-day shot, looking north from that same location. You can see how much has changed. We've taken a lot for granted, our trail activity the last 20 years. I think people have sort of thought, well, we've always done this sort of thing. The reality is, no, we have not. It's very unique when you turn back the clock and think about what was going on in 1993. We were not looking for something new to do in the area of recreation and parks. Frankly, most cities were not either. If you remember, in 1993, we were emerging from the savings and loan crisis, the real estate bust. A lot of municipalities, a lot of local governments were still cutting back, still trying to make ends meet. When the opportunity came about in '93, Union Pacific was abandoning that rail line. There was a group called the Dallas Parks Foundation that went to us and went to the city of Dallas and said, there's this great opportunity, can you make it work? We looked at them and said, well, yeah, it's kind of neat, but this isn't what we do. They went to the city of Dallas, and the city of Dallas was saying, we can't maintain what we already have. Thank you, but I don't know how we can make this work. The court that we had at the time recognized what a unique opportunity it was, and I think Lee Jackson deserves a great deal of that credit. He came up with the idea of saying, let's make this a test case. If it works, then we can build on it. If it doesn't, well, at least we tried. Because this opportunity, it was 3 miles of rail corridor, was never going to exist again. It's in the middle of the city of Dallas. The way that rail abandonment works is that once it goes completely through the process, the property goes to the adjoining property owners. It is lost forever, and the only way you can ever reassemble the 100 some odd parcels is to individually acquire each parcel, which realistically is just not going to happen. The court agreed with Commissioner Judge Jackson's suggestion. The city of Dallas did too, and frankly the rest is history. Even before the K trail was built, we were recognizing what kind of benefits could be done by this. And we adopted our first trail plan in 1997. Then we funded our second trail project, the Railroad Trail in DeSoto, in 98 for $300,000. Seeing all this starting to get together, we were getting that critical mass, and it became more clear this is something that we wanted to do. Again, the court that was in place recognized that this is something that was beneficial to the county, to the general public, and to the local economy. Recognizing that, they decided to change the emphasis of the open space program from, instead of it being primarily accumulating open space, which we had done at that time and had about, I think, 2,000 acres in the system, they changed the emphasis of the program to creating a comprehensive trail system. And they modeled it on our thoroughfare, our regional thoroughfare plan. The idea would be with these trails, oh yes, we want trails so that people can go and take walks and go to the softball diamond, and that's nice. But we really want the purpose of the program to be to create an alternative form of transportation. We wanted people to be able to walk or ride their bike from one end of the county without having to use a car. That change in philosophy and emphasis coincided with the adoption of our pay-as-you-go method of capital improvement. That had a significant impact on our program. Prior to that, our open space program was funded from GO bonds like everything else. We typically only had about $500,000 to $700,000 a year for projects. That's not very much. With pay-as-you-go, we're now averaging about $2.5 million a year. And also then subsequently, and I'm getting to this page, we'll come back to it in a second. You can see how we were modeling our trail program on our thoroughfare program. We'll design it. We'll build it for you, we'll help fund it, but we're expecting the cities to own and operate. And then we can work out the management issue between both parties with some combination. This is a picture of the Santa Fe Trail, which provided a key 4.5-mile link from the White Rock Trail to the edge of downtown. Initially, all the program's funding was from the county's open space program. Then commissioners started using their NCIP transportation money for this project. The picture that you see there,
Beautiful bridge.
it is a beautiful bridge. There was a commissioner that recognized that this was a unique opportunity. This was the very first NCIP transportation funded project. This is a bridge over White Rock Lake. If you recall, at that time, Mockingbird had a bike lane that it shared with the traffic, and there really wasn't enough room for one, let alone both. And with the help of the county's funding, that bike lane became a permanent, dedicated bridge over the lake.
But it is over White Rock and not over the trail.
Working on that. I might need you for some money.
Oh, so you can get one of those. Picked up on that real quick.
In the last 10 years, the use of NCIP funding has really accelerated to almost, I believe every commissioner has now started doing that. Since '93, we have programmed $60 million for trails. The vast majority of that, over $59 million, has come in the last 13 years. Wow. Dallas County has 900 square miles. It's not really possible to create a comprehensive trail system overnight. So what we decided to do was that we were going to identify those projects that could be quickly done that went somewhere. We did not want just a 1 mile trail that circled around a park or that went through a neighborhood. Yes, that would be nice, but really, where's the countywide benefit of doing something like that? So we established those criteria, and that framework has really helped us a lot, to the point of what you can see now is we've got almost 40 miles of trail that we built. They connect with another almost 50 miles of existing trail. We have another 30 miles of trail that are in some phase of design, feasibility study, or construction. And as a result of that, despite the county having 900 square miles, most people live within about 15 to 20 minutes of one of these trails. And then you can see in the next page, it's great that we have all this mileage, but it goes somewhere. You can see that it goes to dark stations. It goes to major employment centers like Las Colinas. You have beautiful skyline views of the Trinity River, of downtown. It connects with the University of Texas at Dallas. It approaches Southern Methodist University. It approaches a number of the community college campuses. And it's also created some spin-off economic benefits. You can see one of the restaurants there that's adjacent to the Katy Trail. This is what we've got so far on the ground. You can see what's in the blue is what was completely city funded. What is funded, what is in red, is the projects that have been done with with county assistance as well. And you can begin to see, despite the 900 square miles, we're having elements in a lot of the major areas of the county. Obviously, the southeast we're still a little short of, but when you think about that, that is probably our least populated portion of the county. It makes sense. We've tried to concentrate on where the people are. This is a list of all the projects that we've done. Some of them are obviously very recognizable. The Katy Trail is a classic example. Preston Bridge, Santa Fe, Cottonwood, Red Oak. You can go on down the list. Every corner of the county pretty much has a major project now. Everybody goes, well, what do we gain from this? Yes, it's nice to have these trails on the ground, but what have we really got from it? I think the reason why trails have become such a popular thing in the last 10 years, and it doesn't mean just in North Texas, in Dallas, you can go to Colorado, you can go to Michigan, you can go to the Northeast. Everybody, you poll people of what kind of recreational facility would you like, what amenity would you like, and trails is almost always one of the first one or two things that they mention. And I think the reason why that is so is because it can be used by so many different population groups. You look at some of the previous slides, and then you look at some of the slides, the pictures on this slide. The different types of people that you see using it. You've got elderly couples taking walks in the evening. You've got people trying to improve their health. You've got people trying to run, ride their bike to school, ride their bike to work, just taking a walk with their dog. There's a couple of pictures here. Let me point out to you. These were shot. Some of these pictures were shot about 3 or 4 weeks ago on an average Saturday morning. You've got in the middle picture to the left, it's a group of young men walking to Temple on Saturday. Talk about using this as an alternative form of transportation without a motor vehicle. The person in the upper right is visually impaired. He uses the trail because he knows he can get outside and not have to worry about getting run over by a car. Again, those are the types of things I don't think we were thinking of when we started this process, but it's one of the important benefits that we gained from that. The other thing is if you actually start to look at the numbers, the people who are using trails like Santa Fe, White Rock, Preston Bridge, Katy, are larger than some bus route riderships and a lot of residential streets. So we are starting to make an impact. Some of the other benefits we've gained are enhanced property values. There's a number of studies nationally that show that the proximity to a trail will add up to 10% value to a residential property. And that it will shorten the amount of time that you're listed for sale by almost as much as 1/2. It's also created adjacent economic development. The upper right picture is a picture of the Katy Ice House. That is the largest producer of mixed beverage tax revenue in Dallas, and one of the top 10 in the state. You can go on down to the bottom part. You see a number of residential developments that have sprung up along Katy and Santa Fe that they actively market their proximity to the trail. They've adopted elements of the name of the trail in their own name. You've seen people, they now refer to, well, where do you live? It used to be, I live in Oak Lawn, or I live in the Park Cities, or something like that. They say, I live by the Katy Trail. It's become a cultural icon. It's a reference point for a lot of people. And a lot of other studies have shown that for especially high-tech firms that are considering relocating. One of the things that is very important to them, more than what the local tax rate is or what kind of subsidies they can gain, is do you have assets like this in your area? The other thing that it's also done is it's created something out of nothing. It's almost like urban alchemy. That middle picture there with the azaleas, that's the Crescent Ridge Trail. That was built in a non-core right-of-way. Most of those corridors are from 100 to 100 feet wide. And in the summer, they're empty, they're ugly, the grass was always dead. You saw absolutely no life form present at all, and it was understandable. By putting trails like this in here, and then you've had community groups, neighborhood groups like you have in the Crescent Ridge area, where they've adopted it, embraced it, and gone out and raised the money to put in landscaping like this, you really have created something out of nothing. I've made the comment, this is sort of one of our best kept secrets of county government. But we want to do better than that. We want to make sure that people know what we have, and we've tried to use a variety of different forums to bring this forward. We're trying to develop a Facebook page. We've done some publications. A lot of our projects have received national and state recognition and awards. We've updated our website. We've gotten good media coverage. This map in the lower right-hand column, lower left-hand side is representative of a project. Virginia Cook Realtors came to us in the spring and offered to do individual trail maps on the 30-some-odd trails in the Dallas area. We're almost through with those. When that is completed, we'll be able to distribute those, and we'll post those on our website. The flyer up there on the upper left, it says, now that you have a new bike, Richardson Bike Mart is probably the largest bicycle shop in the Dallas area. They sell 10,000 bicycles a year. When you buy a bicycle, they will put together a little ownership package for you. And it has the manual and the warranty and a coupon for getting your first flat fix free, that sort of thing. They offered to put in a flyer about our trail system. We've done that. We've given them about 3,000 of those in the last 6 months. And they keep calling and asking for more. We've seen an increase in the number of hits on our website. It's still not like we would like, but depending on the month, the number of hits has gone up anywhere from 50% to over 100%. So we're starting to get the word out there that way. Next question is, what's next? What do we do now? We're busy sort of connecting the dots right now. It will never, ever be possible to truly complete the system because there's always something else you can come up with. But we've got on the next page an idea, sort of a general framework, what a largely realized comprehensive trail system might look like. Now, there's 20 projects on there, and they total an estimated cost of over $100 million. That is a large amount of money. But let me put it in context for you. Over the last 13 years, the county has already provided close to $60 million. If you also think that cities are increasingly providing matching funds or partial funds for this $114 million figure suddenly becomes very realistic, and is not too dissimilar to what we've done in the last decade. And then here's an indication or a map of what we could do or what's proposed. What's in the magenta is what's proposed and is currently unfunded. We've tried to fill in more of the gaps in the middle and in the south and the southeast a little bit. And they're really, really good projects. That's one of the things that we've been so fortunate about, is that we've had good projects that the cities have brought us that we've been able to identify or that the communities have identified for us. And we've still got some more to do. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to make up an answer if I don't have it.
Well, you know, the difference is you keep talking about southeast and the reason we have that. We've done the Java Preserve, we've done the Allegheny Slough, we've done those kind of parks because we are sparsely populated. I mean, but when you look at the whole sector, and it's probably has the most potential in terms of emerging, is the fact that we still like basic infrastructure.
We do.
So, you know, we're not just going to talk about a trail, and I'm just putting it out there. I don't want to talk about a trail when I'm still looking for water and sewer. And which we're about to hopefully embark upon.
Correct.
And so,
There's a large part of that, which is Pleasant Grove, so I would like to see if we can in fact develop it. But I'm very, very excited to be joining the court at this time in history, because as you say, we're not done yet. So there's some very interesting, exciting projects that will not only work hand in hand with infrastructure needs, but enhancing the area for all of the population in Dallas County. So bring it on. We're ready to see what we can do to work together on that.
But it's also, one thing that, jumped at me when I read the briefing yesterday was that it took a vision. It took vision and leadership to be where we are today. When it was not popular having trails, when the needs were in other areas, and I'm not saying commissioner that infrastructure is not important because it is, and it's continued to be a challenge, but we're addressing it. But in my mind, you have to work in different angles to solve the problem. And this is something that is doing exactly what you said. But what have we got out of it? Increasing tax rates, better property values. One thing that is not in the briefing that I always say is people like to be joined and to watch other people. It's amazing. Healthier lifestyles come from trails. And the fact that now everybody in Dallas County can say, I live about 15 to 20 minutes from a trail, is amazing. Imagine what we can do in the next 20 years. The other thing is, I really see, now with the next projects, where do we go from here? A connectivity that will be unique in Dallas County. Kingswood, which is the longest trail in the southern section, Commissioner Price and I have just a time with you. Is the connector into the east and to the west. And it's going to be the connector into the northwest as well. Campion Trail from Coppell almost to Grand Prairie now, and Grand Prairie is extremely exciting, will be the longest on the west side of Dallas County. Now, I see in our list also North Haven extension. That will be the connector between the east and the west on the north side. Beautiful District 1, 2, and 4 can be together. And, with the District 3, Pleasant Grove, which is here as well, we can have one of the best trail systems in the state of Texas if we just continue with the vision of connectivity. It can be done, Commissioner.
Yeah, that's fine. And I appreciate Rick, and as much as anything, having been here with this court, what I am promised of, the fact that you can now fund that is because we went to an pay-as-you-go MCIP program. That never would have happened, number one. Nobody would have caught the vision if we hadn't been able to get the funds and get the stream, the revenue stream. That's number one. So I really applaud the court, and I applaud this court for sticking with them, because at times there has been some talk about diversion from that plan. But, and I applaud all of the rest of Dallas County. But in Southeast, we've still been treated in such a way that, and no fault of this court, but infrastructure. I mean, the basicness of water and sewer. You can put the prettiest trail in the world out there. Nobody's going to move out there if they're buying water out of a mud district. And when we are still dealing with the major water carriers, the BWUs of the world, the Trinity River authorities, when we're having to watch the pennies on our water per gallon, that's still the big challenge for us. And we're not going to ever develop until we get the infrastructure. And so all the dollars, and by the way, we model our quote water projects under the same plan that we did with it. This was successful, and so now our new quote water plan, water quote sewer plan is modeled under it. So it's under my MCIP. But when you look at the TIFs, and Rick is in charge of that, I've looked at these TIFs. They're not in and that's the way they built again. That's the way they built infrastructure with TIFs. That increment is turned back in. They've been able to do, what I call amenities with the TIFs. But we need the TIFs just to bring water and sewer.
But if you put the TIF and you put the anchor project, because a TIF can be a TIF forever and not be very successful unless you have an anchor project. Once you have that picture, and on top of that you add a trail, people will ask and will put pressure pressure for the infrastructure because they want to live close to that trail. And that's exactly what's going on in Cypress Water, and we can see it. You know, we started with the tip, we started with development, but it's when you bring the amenities that people really push their elected officials to have that infrastructure. It definitely is a point in advantage when we talk about trails.
You know, one of the things you mentioned the word advantage. Clearly in the last 10, 15 years, it's been the Allens and the Kennedys and the Friscos that have grown hand over fist. It seems they double in size almost every week. They are so busy trying to keep up with that new growth, they've not been able to quite do what we've been doing. And that is something we still hold a competitive advantage. They're scrambling to put in a trail system. But their trails are those isolated 1 mile segments that look nice in a park, but they don't go anywhere yet. And that is right now something that we still, we're 10, 15 years ahead of them in that respect.
I'd like to say also, Commissioner Price, that I want to partner very much to see that this part of the county, in fact, does advance in not only the infrastructure, but then it becomes part of the whole Dallas County that is enhanced and takes advantage of some of the progress that has been made in other parts of Dallas County. So yes, we all can be joining in the same, and I know that Ms. Blair over there is very excited about what we can do to do the roads and the water and the sewer, in addition to the amenities that I think everyone is expecting.
You're not going to turn down offer of money for the water, or?
Oh, no.
I want to see that. I want to see that. No, you're not saying that, are you?
I just think we take infrastructure for granted. A lot of we take water. Yeah, we take all that for granted. I don't even get into roads and things. I'm just talking about water and sewer. And nobody's going to build residential. And when you see commercial development coming in, again, we're trying to encourage those individuals to create the context and TIFs. Unlike residential, which I'm just writing a letter now about someone telling me about a great tip. Well, it works fine if you work in the residential area. It works fine at Gateway. You can get someone there that's a lot different than logistics. When you talk about commercial and logistics, it's a more difficult pain than it is with residential.
I remember when nobody wanted to be in the Oak Cliff TIF. Yeah. When people were fighting to get out of the TIF, and that was less than 10 years ago.
Right, but that,
and it was all residential, now look what's going on. When you put all the amenities, we have construction every single 3 blocks away.
And in football, we call it an end around. There's no way they're going to run out of Oak Cliff. I hear that. I keep hearing that. By the way, let me just tell you, in this discovery here, I see there's a fresh water district over there.
That is correct.
Yeah, right. In the middle.
In the middle of the city.
That's exactly right. But nobody said that until we got to discover working on one down in.
But again, I think the idea, and the message I want to convey is that we can do it all together and be successful. And that this, like Mr. Losler very correctly called, the best secret in Dallas County, it's trails and amenities. And now you see mayors. I know that the mayor of Fort Worth, Dallas, Grand Prairie, and Irving got together to discuss how we can improve the trail system on the west side of Dallas County. Amazing. We need to do that all over Dallas County, north, south, east, and west. But hey, at least we're talking about it. We're having the vision. We have the leadership. I'm talking about leadership. I see my appointee to the trail board, Ms. Silvia Camarino here. I don't know if there's anyone else that is in the board. I can't see very well far away. But if you are, could you please stand up? Oh, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. It's a great time in Dallas County, and thank you, Mr. Losler, for your hard work, your staff hard work, and obviously for keeping everybody, Michael Amonette, and everybody in the board, focused and looking forward to the next few years. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mossberg. We do want to encourage the public to get out on the trails. We do have a wonderful trail system, so that was the main purpose of this brief, is just to encourage people to get healthy and use the trails. So,
I guess.
With that, Mr. Chair, you do have 5 speakers listed.
Okay. If the officer will read the rules of decorum for the speaker.
All Commissioners Court attendees are hereby advised that this meeting is conducted in accordance with the provisions of Dallas County Code Section 771. Visitors and speakers are preserved order and form at all times. Personal, profane, or slanderous remarks are not appropriate and may not be allowed at any time during this public meeting. Any and all clauses to be kept brief in observance of time constraints. Constructive visitors and/or registered speakers may be released and are subject to penalties provided in the state of Texas Penal Code sections 38.13, 42.01, and 42.05. Registered individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes and a maximum discussion of 2 minutes. One topic is limited to 30 minutes.
Thank you. I will call your name. If you'll repeat your name, give your address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes, and the county clerk's office you will see it on the screen in the form of looks like a signal light. This is Regina.
Yes. Hi, I'm Regina Invergia. I live at 5423 Goodwin Avenue, and that's Dallas. Okay, where do I see the number of the time?
It'll be on the...
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, I started Activists for Truth in May of 2012 to bring attention to situations like fluoridation, and to offer a venue to enlighten people to things that are going on in our world that affect our lives and encourage activism to make a positive change. So I am here today to tell you I do not want you to use my tax dollars to pay to put fluoride in the water. There's no good reason to add fluoride, but a plethora of reasons why not. If you do not know these reasons, you should. I encourage each and every one of you to look into the dangers of fluoride. I think you'll be amazed. Dr. Paul Connett, PhD, created fluoridealert.com. He has been researching the subject for 14 years and has clearly written 50 reasons to oppose fluoridation. Adding fluoride to the water supply violates the individual's right to consent. If a doctor fails to disclose the effects of a medicine or attempts to hide information, he can lose his license. By putting fluoride in the water, you are pushing this medicine on everyone without consent, thus allowing you to do to everyone what a doctor can do to no one. Fluoride is not a nutrient. You will never find a disease due to the lack of fluoride. Not a single process in the body needs fluoride, and this defines a nutrient. There's an epidemic of hypothyroidism in America. In the 30s, 40s, and 50s, fluoride tablets were used to lower thyroid levels. Fluoride collects in the body and causes serious damage. You can only control the concentration, and I'm sure you pay people to carefully monitor this concentration, but you cannot control the dose because you cannot control the amount people drink. Most professionals have no intent to harm anyone. They just trust what they have heard and assume the information they have is correct. Fluoridation cannot be compared to chlorination. Chlorination treats the water, fluoridation treats people. Fluoridation is not an attempt to make the water supply safer. It is simply using the water supply to deliver a medication. College Station is one of the places in Texas that has halted the use of fluoride.
Okay, just to kind of conclude, I know they're having some difficulty.
Okay,
just to kind of conclude.
Yes, sir. College Station is one of the places in Texas that has halted the use of fluoride. Their population is 100, and it has been determined that they are saving $40,000. My sincere hope is that you look into these concerns, and this actually becomes a passion, and you encourage our efforts. You would be truly heroes if you halted the use of fluoride in Dallas, making Dallas an even more desirable place to live and saving money at the same time. Thank you. Can I have water bottles?
Water bottles.
Empty water bottles. 35 cents a whole person.
Mr. Stephen.
Teresa.
Stephen Noah. Okay, so you're going to say Wilson.
Personal leaders all place this right here. You can see the tab at the top and it goes and then I'll
Good. Put your name and address, please.
All right, my name is Stephen Miller. I live at 3818 Hall Street in the Oakland neighborhood. I believe that Dr. Daniels is my rep on the court. I noticed on today's agenda, the commissioners will be considering appointees to some of the boards and commissions that it has authority over. I would like the commissioners to understand from a perspective of an employee who has dealt extensively with one of those boards how important these appointments are. I would ask the commissioners not to depend too much on the recommendation of current members of those boards for suggestions on future appointees. I would say the problem with the current system, it stifles creativity, and objectivity, at the risk and harm of fiduciary responsibility. On one of your boards, you have a group of individuals who work very closely together. However, they rubber stamp most management decisions and very rarely involve themselves in any kind of substantive review of higher level management, what the higher level management organization is actually doing. This is unfortunate in this particular instance because 50,000 individuals in Dallas County depend on this organization, and it has an annual budget of $55 million. When the board ignores the facts and the input of the public citizens, does not provide proper review, they disappoint the commissioners who appoint them, the 1,400 employees who work there, the consumers they serve, and the taxpayers who place their trust in them. We've had experience with boards not providing sufficient oversight of organizations under your domain and thus getting into trouble with stakeholders. I ask you to appoint members to these boards that you have thoroughly vetted and make sure they're going to advocate for the taxpayers. Fair-minded individuals who do not lend themselves to groupthink so much so that it blinds them from the facts in front of them. I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and Christos. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Ms. Sandra Crenshaw. Sandra Crenshaw. Mr. James Moriarty. I'm sorry.
My name is James Moriarty. My address is 9306 Clearwater, Dallas, Texas. We must salute the mad scientists and their marketing firms that took the salvia called fluoride, a toxic byproduct of fertilizer manufacturing, and converted it into such a silk-purse profit center. They took a proven toxic material which would cost them tremendous amounts of money to dispose of safely, and instead they turned it into a huge profit center by selling this toxin to government agencies in the U.S. by claiming beneficial effects. There's no legitimate reason why fluoride should have ever been added to water supplies. Unfortunately, we live in a litigious society. The financially strapped city of Dallas is ill prepared for a huge class action lawsuit that could be brought forward by unscrupulous attorneys claiming fluoride is responsible for every ill that every Dallas citizen suffers. There are sufficient third-party studies conducted by respected world-renowned scientists that prove fluoride, even in minute amounts, can cause permanent damage to humans. This data is irrefutable and provides plenty of cannon fodder for the litigants. 40% of all American teenagers show signs of fluoride overexposure. Not only does it not include dental health care, but it has proved that to cause defects in tooth enamel. This is caused by fluoride interfering with tooth cell forming. Fluorosis, which was claimed by health officials to damage no more than 10% of children, has proven to be underestimated by 300 to 400%. In some fluoridated areas in the United States, fluorosis is as high as 70 to 80%. The incidence of hip replacement and other bone problems in seniors in the USA far exceeds those of ailments in other parts of the world. The concern today is not just the safety of fluoridated water by itself, but the safety of fluoridated water in combination with all other sources which we are now exposed to, which includes Teflon cans, tea, pesticide, processed beverages, foods, and even pharmaceuticals. I recommend that Dallas take all the money they're using for fluoride and do some of your infrastructure projects that you need. It's a toxin. It's dangerous.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Albert Holman.
Yes, my name is Albert Holman. I live at 3424 Daniel Avenue, Dallas, Texas. I'm also going to address the issue of fluoride. The claims that fluoride are beneficial to the human body have been largely discounted by studies that have been done that are done by, for instance, a dentist from New Zealand who was over 50 years a dentist and a strong proponent of fluoridation until he began to realize that a lot of the studies that they had were by people who believed in fluoridation. They believed what they had been taught. He found that a lot of these studies were very, very flawed. And in order to get a lot of that information, he even had to appeal to the government legislation in New Zealand, similar to FOIA here, to get information. And he traveled in the United States and also had people here get that kind of information. There is no statistic showing that fluoride, when it is well done, that fluoride is beneficial. As a matter of fact, there has been a tremendous increase in osteosarcoma in boys 9 to 13 years of age in the United States since fluoridation has happened. And the statistics that show that dental decay has gone down during the fluoridation time has not taken into account that nutrition has gone up tremendously since World War II, including a lot of fresh vegetables and fruits. And this has built up the immune systems of the population in general. Many countries are totally banning fluoride. The United States is the most fluoridated country in the world. Denmark, Finland, Sweden, Russia, Israel, Germany, Holland, to name just a few, have banned fluoride. 97% of Europe does not add a single drop of fluoride to their water. In the town of Kuopio, Finland, the only town that had fluoridation in their water, the government studied and saw that there was a tremendous increase in fluoride in the bone structure of the children there, and they banned it nationally completely. Fluoride leads to osteoporosis. When we ingest fluoride, and this has been done by studies, and we only eliminate half of the fluoride we've ingested, and the rest goes into bones and eventually causes osteoporosis and leads to osteosarcoma, a very deadly form of cancer. And studies have been done with animals in the United States where fluoride has induced osteosarcoma in these animals. And what it does, it interferes with the male testosterone hormone. And that is largely involved with the building of bone structure in the male. It doesn't seem to happen in the female. So males are more affected by this in that fluoride, being the most active of the halogens, which are very active chemicals, interferes with the process of formation of bone structure. Okay, well, I just would like for all of you to seriously consider eliminating fluoride from Dallas County and taking a great step forward for the health of us all and for our descendants.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, that seems to be all the registered speakers. For the court, we have an executive session, so we are going to recess to executive session for all matters that are permitted by law in the Texas Government Code 551.071 through 76.